we use the inputs of sensitivity analysis in risk analysis. Okay? Risk analysis is a question of applying probability, theory to the variables that we have identified. Let's say that particular strategic option that we are considering has three raw materials. Out of those three, one of the raw materials was found to be very important from the sensitivity analysis point of view. So let's call that variable 1. Variable 1 is the raw material, the price of the raw material. And the next thing that sensitivity analysis found was that the price that customers were prepared to pay would significantly impact the profitability. Okay? So these two variables, the price of raw material 1 and the price of the finished product, these are two variables that are going to significantly affect profitability. Right. Now let's take variable 1, that is the raw material cost. The raw material cost could be 100 rupees per kilogram. It could go up to 150 rupees per kilogram. There is a 30% chance that it is 130 rupees per kilogram. There is a 20% chance that it is 140 rupees per kilogram. So this is the probability profile of that particular variable. There is a variable which is the cost of that raw material. The cost of that raw material can vary from 100 to 150 per kg, and there is a probability profile on how that cost could vary. We don't know which of these figures will actually come about, but we know that this is the probability that that particular figure will come. This is the probability profile. Right. So that's one thing. Now let's look at the second variable which sensitivity analysis identified, and this is the price of the final product. Now the price of the final product could vary from 500 to 600, right? The price of the product could vary from 500 to 600. Now there is a 40% chance that the price will be 550. There is a 10% chance that the price will be 590. There is a 20% chance that the price will be 520. Okay? Now we don't know which of these values will actually happen, but we know the probability of each of these values taking place. This is the probability profile for the second variable. Now we mix these two. We mix the probability profile for variable 1 with the probability profile for variable 2. So when we mix these two, we get the probability profile for the final profit. The final profit, after all, is impacted most by these two variables. So we know the probability profile of each one of these variables. Therefore, when we put in these two into the equation and we play around with it, we are able to find out the probability profile of the final profit. This is what risk analysis does. Risk analysis converts the probability profiles of important variables into a probability profile for the final profit, right? And the technique that does this, the technique of risk analysis that does this, is called the Monte Carlo technique. Monte Carlo technique is the technique which does this particular activity of converting information on the probability profile of variables into probability profile of the final profit of the company. Right. Now, here's the risk profile for the first strategic option. Okay. On the x-axis you have the profit, the y-axis you have the probability of that particular profit happening. The profit, as you can see, varies between x and z. Okay. This is the probability curve. Y is the most likely profit which will result from this particular strategic option. The profit will not be less than x and the profit will not be more than z. Okay? That's what this risk profile tells us. Right. Now let's look at the second strategic option. Now, in the case of the second strategic option, the minimum profit, that is the minimum possible profit, the minimum possible profit is 0.3x. Okay. The profit will not be below 0.3x. However, in this option there is a probability that the profit can be 2z. 2z is the maximum that the profit can achieve. And the most probable value of the profit is 1.5y. This is the second strategic option, right? Now you will see that these figures are all different from the first strategic option.